Well, a very good afternoon to you all on this fifth day of our extended lockdown in South Africa. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrews in Newlands. Today's Eucharist readings again come from the book of Acts and also the book of John, Acts 4 towards the end and the early part of John chapter 3. The picture in Acts 4 is possibly a slightly idealistic picture of the early church in action. It speaks of everybody holding everything in common, nobody claiming private ownership of anything, people happily selling their goods, their property, that money may be made available to help those who were in need. While it may seem a little idealistic, there are some external sources, and there's a lovely letter from a governor right on the outskirts of the Roman Empire, writing in to Rome for some direction. There's this strange group of people who call themselves Christians, and not only are these Christians looking after their own sick and the poor in their midst, but they're insisting on helping the poor and the sick in the wider community. And this really throws the Roman governor. He's not quite sure how to handle the situation. And so it would suggest that part of what we see in Acts, there certainly wasn't a huge amount of generosity being expressed through those who had accepted Jesus as Messiah and as Lord, and who were seeking to live out their faith in very real, tangible ways. And seeking to make a difference not only in their own community but beyond it. And so it just strikes me that perhaps in our own world, which on one level has become so individualistic, quite self-focused in so many ways in recent times, that perhaps the virus, as this pandemic really does impact on our economies to some very desperate levels. It's, I think, waking us up to the reality that we really don't have the levels of control over our lives that we ideally would like to have or have believed that we've got. And recognizing that actually what we have needs to be shared. And certainly within the context of St Andrews, it's been wonderful just to see some of the donations and things that have come in to help with some of our outreach initiatives during this time. And one, I think, just sees that there is a level of humanity in our midst that we haven't seen for a long time. And it is the virus that's, in a sense, reawoken that in our lives and our hearts and our communities. And the key, of course, going forward will be to find ways to really make that an ongoing reality. That it's not just a flash in the pan as we deal with a crisis. Reality, I think, is sinking in for most of us that the impact of the coronavirus is going to be quite long-term on us, on our economies, and that our lives have changed and will be changed as we come out slowly from our times of lockdown around the world. And so the challenge will be to find ways to really be empathetic and compassionate in our attitudes to those we love, to those we know, and to strangers. Really finding ways to meaningfully, not just as Christians, but as fellow South Africans, to find ways of really reaching out in new and new and fresh ways to make a difference in the communities that we're all part of. Kind of this virus has reminded us of our common humanity, and common humanity carries the image of God, and we respond to both that image and to God's love in the midst of it all.